Is he returning to the kitchen cam? We're all like really waiting, aren't we?
Hello.
Yay!
Excellent stuff. You can all meet up. But firstly, massive thanks to my wife, Shelley, who's acting as camera person this morning, because I've put things on a tripod. It won't work. Now, there are a couple of things we have to do before we get started. First, we have to close this door. The main reason being is later on, things are going to get a bit smoky, and I don't want to have to run out of the kitchen to actually put off a smoke alarm. So I can't hear you because my phone is actually plugged in, or my microphone is plugged into the earphone socket. So if something goes wrong, can you just wave and then you'll be able to tell Shelley what's going on. But otherwise, let's get started. Sous vide is in fact how it's pronounced. It's French for under vacuum. And today we're talking about cooking at low temperatures. Not a new concept. Low temperature cooking actually started in 1799 when Benjamin Thompson, otherwise known as Count Rumford, attempted to actually cook some meat using the exact same machine that he used to dry his potatoes. By his own admission, it did work, except it wasn't what you'd call entirely eatable. But something had begun. But you do need to fast forward to the 1960s, where French and American engineers started working on ways to actually preserve food by using vacuums. What they recognized is that food spoiled when it was exposed to the air. Get rid of the air, slow down the spoiling process. And they invented a process of storing food known as cryovacking. That was cryogenic stasis and vacuum, cryovacking. Very technical. All it essentially meant was putting it in a bag and sucking the air out of it. And now we move up to 1974. A chef by the name of Georges Pralou, working at the restaurant Trois Gros in Rouen, oh yes, he can pronounce French, folks, it's what he does, was working on some foie gras. And he decided to actually cook utilizing the method of cooking at low temperatures under vacuum. And he noticed something interesting happening. What he noticed was that the food kept its look. The aesthetic didn't change as it was being cooked. It also maintained its size. The fat and the moisture wasn't going anywhere, and the texture became sublime. Sous vide was born. Working throughout the 1970s on the other side of the world in Virginia was Bruno Gousseau, and he was working for Cuisine Solutions. As well as being culinary leaders, they also led a bunch of research labs. And Gousseau was starting to train chefs around the world in how to cook under vacuum using water bath technology. What he recognized was that air is not a great conductor of heat, but water is. Water is in fact 90% more efficient at transferring heat than air. That's why if you buy a small oven, it cooks better. There's less air inside it. Use a vacuum, there's none. And we use the water instead. And that's what we're actually going to be doing today. The beauty part about cooking sous vide is there is no guesswork. All the temperatures have actually been worked out for you in advance. In fact, when you buy a machine like this one here, it comes with a long list of all the different temperatures that you can cook meat at, all according to your own desired level of doneness. It's all been worked out for you. We know for a fact that if you want to enjoy a steak medium rare, you cook it at 56.5 degrees centigrade. If you actually want to enjoy your steak medium, you crank it up to around about 59.5. And if you want to enjoy your steak well done, there's no place for you on this earth. You're an evil, evil person. But that's another story. Today, in honor of my good friend Callum, we're going to be doing some duck breast. Now, first thing you want to do is leave your duck resting out of the packet in the fridge for about an hour. That just lets everything settle down. Now, one of the reasons I'm actually giving you such a history lesson today is the actual cooking part of this is unbelievably quick. I say the cooking, I mean the preparation. Cooking sous vide is a slow process. And the reason being is the meat comes up to temperature and then it stays there. When you cook in an oven around about 200 degrees, what's happening is the food continues to go up and up and up in temperature, and you try and take it out before it gets too cooked, or as we like to call it in the technical world, burnt. Now, the problem there is that even if you don't burn it, you've probably removed a lot of moisture and up to 40% of the vitamin B content purely by cooking it in an oven. Here, everything is going to stay in the meat in question. So we grab our duck breast, do like cooking with duck. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to score the skin. We're just going to score the fat. Now, it's very important here that you don't cut into the meat. Okay, you just want to score the fat, just going into it, but don't go into the meat. Okay. This is just going to allow the fat to render inside the vacuum pack, but it's not going to draw, to go too far and let the fat go everywhere. Now, if you're worried at all that you might accidentally go into the meat, which some people are concerned about, you can skip this stage. It doesn't really matter too much, but it looks so much better when it comes out the other end if you do this. So just a series of scores like that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to generously season the skin side with some koshering salt. Flip it over. Same on the other side. And some black pepper. I'm also going to use some thyme to season this. Now, I don't like working with thyme. My wife actually doesn't like the taste of it at all, but I don't like working with it because I don't like the fiddliness. You've actually got to go through it, take all the leaves off the stalk and everything like that. Well, you know what? Not a problem this time around. Let me show you what I mean. What you've got here is a vacuum bag. We're going to put our duck inside the bag. Take our thyme, throw it in. That's it. That's all there is to it. Now, in order to prepare it, what we do is just get the board out of the way for just a moment. Got here a food saver. This is the sort of thing where you actually will save your food. You can actually take your leftovers so they will last longer. Some of them actually do it with bags, some of them do it with tubs. But the idea is very, very simple. We take our bag, put it there. Now, this gets a little bit loud. We're going to suck all the air out. And now it's sealing the bag. That is it. Now, the makers of Sous Vide do actually provide vacuum packs as well. I think you can now get one from JML as well, where you've just got a little handheld pump. I prefer this device because it does absolutely everything for you. That's it. That really is all there is to it. As I said, preparation-wise, really, really simple. Now, the Sous Vide Demi, this is my personal machine of choice. That's been getting my water ready at 57.5 degrees centigrade or 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Thank you. That's some lovely camera work there. What we'll do, is she good? Is she marvellous? Here's the hard part. Yoink. That's it. Put the lid on. You don't actually need to put the lid on, by the way. You don't have to, but it's tidier to do it that way. That is it. There'll be no going back to the oven on a regular basis to actually see if things are ready. There'll be no flipping things around. It is cooking, and it will not burn. It's impossible. Interesting things start happening to poultry and game the longer you leave it in there. Now, the time I like to leave it in there is around about 2 hours. If you leave it for 3 hours, it starts to get even softer, 4 hours softer still. But what's happening is two things. One, it's coming up to temperature. But two, it's absolutely infusing with the flavor of that salt and pepper and thyme. That herby flavor is really going to cut through the meat, and it is going to be absolutely delicious. In fact, Sous Vide is wonderful when it comes to infusions. So much so, it's now being used in the bartender industry. If you've gone to any posh bars where they like to provide infused vodkas and gins, well, those things ordinarily would take a couple of weeks. You put the spirit in the bottle, you put the fruit in the bottle, you walk away, you leave it for a while. 3 weeks later, maybe you've got something that tastes nice. And whilst it will taste nice, what you do get is the taste of cooked fruit. However, what you can do is pour your liquid into a bag, add your fruit, put it in one of these at 60 degrees or around about 120 Fahrenheit, going anywhere between 120 and 150, leave it for a couple of hours, and the flavor you'll get will actually be of freshly picked fruit. It's a whole different flavor experience, and many, many bars are trying it. What they are mindful of is you should never, ever, ever take your sous vide over 173 degrees. That is the temperature at which alcohol will evaporate. And no one going to a bar is going to enjoy that sort of mocktail if they thought they were getting the real deal. However, you're going to start seeing these in a lot of places. Now, you might be thinking, that's all very well and good, but that seems rather expensive. That's a £250 machine. The Vide vacuum thing, around about 80 quid, that's a massive investment. Well, the beauty part here is that you don't need to. You can actually do sous vide using a large pot and a thermometer. You just have to keep an eye on the temperature. It's better with gas rather than electric, but just keep an eye on the temperature. And as long as you're within a 5-degree window, you're fine. If it starts to get too cold, turn the heat up. Gets too hot, pour some cold water on it. It'll come straight back down again. You can also buy much smaller devices. In fact, Aldi do one at the moment. It's only £49.99. Yes, Callum, I mentioned Aldi. 50 quid will get you what's known as a stick sous vide. It's a device you put into the pot and it stirs the water, circulates the water around and keeps it at temperature. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. More and more people are looking to do this. If you don't have the means to vacuum your stuff, little tip for you, Ziploc bag. One of these, put the meat in there, fold it, squeeze as much air out as you can, take it right up to the edge, shove in a drinking straw and suck the remaining air out. There won't be much left. All you need to do is make sure that once you put the meat in, it doesn't float. That's it. It really is that simple. Anyway, I now get to use the words that I've been longing to actually use for quite some time. Here's one I prepared earlier. So this duck has actually been cooking away beautifully now for, well, it's been about 2 hours. I just want to show you in terms of the moisture. Look at that. That's how much moisture there is in that corner there. The rest of it's still inside the duck. Gorgeous stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut open the bag. This bit can be a little bit fiddly. Doesn't need to be. Open the bag, take out the duck. We just put it down on our board, no problem at all. Board's nice and clean there. I'll throw the rest of that away in a while. See, look, there's the thyme that I don't want. Pick it up and remove it. There you go, gone. It's completely out of the way. Then what we want to do is you want to pat everything dry. The moisture in there would actually form quite a barrier when you start to fry it. Now, what you might have noticed straight away is it still doesn't really look very appetizing. That's because the meat hasn't browned. The reason the meat hasn't browned is because it takes a much higher temperature for meat to brown. That's known as the Maillard effect. And that's why anyone cooking sous vide will either sear the meat at the beginning or fry it off at the end, depending on what they're cooking. When it comes to duck, I prefer to do it at the end. And this is a fairly slow process, but let's get started. So over here, need our pan fairly hot, and also need to turn the right one on. There we go. Now I'm turning on the extractor fan here, and that's going to be way too loud. So I might very well ask my wife to open the back door so that we don't have a problem. In fact, I definitely think we should do it. I'm just going to open the back door, folks, because otherwise the smoke alarm is most definitely going to go off, and we absolutely don't want that. So it's going to get a little chilly in here. Okay, so what you want to use oil-wise, I'm using ground nut oil. You want something with a fairly low smoke point. Okay, it's going to get quite smoky in here. Okay, just a little bit. And then what we do, take our duck, you season it again, this time on the skin side, and on the other, a little bit of salt. Pepper's not really necessary at this point. And you put it into your pan, skin side down. And that's going to want to cook for 5 minutes. Don't worry too much about it burning here. The fat is actually providing a major amount of barrier to the bird. It's absolutely fine. Most importantly, that meat is cooked. Okay, there is a beautiful level of doneness running all the way through that. It's beautifully pink. There's nothing to worry about. All the nasties have been cooked off. A lot of people do worry when you're cooking at low temperatures, are you really cooking it safely? What about the bacteria? It's just not a problem. That meat is done. If you see chefs working in professional kitchens actually cooking their steak sous vide, when you cut it open, you don't have the sort of dark brown and getting pinker and pinker and pinker right to the middle. It's beautifully pink all the way through, because that's what happens. The meat has actually come up to its perfect temperature and it's stopped there. I was actually introduced to sous vide by a friend of mine working in an office who said, "Oh, can't wait to get home. I've got a steak waiting for me." I said, "What do you mean you've got a steak waiting for you? Surely that's dry by now." He said, "Oh, no." He actually put his steak onto work before he left the house in the morning, knowing full well that all he had to do when he got home was take it out of the bag, shove it in the pan to just brown both sides of it. It'll be done in 2 minutes flat. And it was good steak. First thing I ever cooked sous vide wise was steak. Of course it was. It is gorgeous. Let's have a little bit of a tidy up whilst we're waiting for that there. Get these things out of the way. I wouldn't say this is particularly camera friendly, but we do need some neatness, as we can't get anything done. Once I take the meat out, I am going to leave it to rest for a while on a chopping board. And actually, whilst I am leaving it to rest, I'm going to show you a beautiful sauce that we're going to make with it. This sauce, by the way, is such a complete tease. It is a massive, massive cheat. To make it, you will need some chicken broth, some peach preserve, and some red wine vinegar. That's it. Now, you can use some paprika or cayenne pepper. I'm going to use some paprika there, the hot stuff. Other people actually do like to use Chinese five spice, but Chinese five spice, my wife just made a face, folks. Right, it's a bit like this. We hate Chinese five spice, so we never have it in the house. So that's why, even if the recipe calls for it, no, 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 no. None of that five spice. Now, let's just check how our duck's doing here. Let's turn that over. Oh, look at that. Look at that skin. Fantastic. We can do a little bit more on the side there. I think some of the edges could do with a little bit. Now, it's not burning. And even if that skin does blacken a little bit, that's absolutely fine. Now, obviously, what you have got happening in the pan here is the creation of some gorgeous duck fat. Do not throw this away. Save it for your roast potatoes. It's fantastic. So 5 minutes on one side, 1 minute on the meat side. We're just going to brown off the other side there. Obviously, people are a little bit funny about meat. When they see something that looks raw, they think it might actually be raw. Of course, it isn't. It's beautifully done. I'm going to back away a bit. I don't want you getting spattered there. So just 1 minute on that side. Again, as I say, it's called the Maillard effect. We're just browning the meat. When you're doing steak, when you're doing beef, you can actually sear the meat beforehand if you want to. Some chefs actually like to do it both times, both before and after. I do like cooking roast beef in this thing. In fact, when we're doing a roast beef dinner on a Sunday, the meat actually goes in on a Friday lunchtime. Excuse me, camera person. So we're going to let that meat rest on our board for a while, and we're just going to make this sauce, because you are not going to believe how unbelievably simple this sauce is. Medium heat, get that pan hot. I'm going to need a spoon. I think we need to film our cutlery drawer, but there we go. So 2 tablespoons of peach preserve. Doink. Dash of paprika. Don't go crazy, unless you want to. It's entirely up to you there. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of red wine vinegar. That'll do. And around about 3 tablespoons of chicken broth. Just come out of a packet, this stuff. Nothing clever. Throw that in there. Okay. Whisk it together. I'm going to crank up the heat there because we want this to reduce. I might transfer it to another one, but obviously don't try and get rid of the lumps in the jam. You can't do that. Okay. So that's just going to come together. It's beautifully sticky. It's going to pick up the flavour from the peach. Some peach jams actually do have a little bit of ginger and orange already in them as well. Can make it beautifully tangy. Like I say, you can add Chinese five spice, but if you do, you're evil. Just an evil, evil person. So what we're going to do, probably needs a little bit more time. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put it on a bigger heat. Cook the living daylights out of it. So whilst that's reducing, let's come back to our duck. I'm going to show you this now, folks. I'm going to grab a knife, These are brand new. These were a birthday present from my daughter. So I love these. Absolutely gorgeous. Let me show you what we're cutting into here. Firstly, I want you to hear this noise. That beautiful crackle there. Let's cut into this. Look at that. Beautiful buttery duck fat. Okay, crispy skin, pink meat. It's perfectly cooked all the way through. It is gorgeous. I'm incredibly jealous because Shelley's going to be eating this for her lunch whilst I actually go and have my one-to-ones. So many things you could serve this with. What I've got pre-prepared in here is, grab my plate, some lovely poi lentils. They actually look particularly lovely. Grab our duck, spread that out across there, like so. Okay, just going to wash my hands a little bit there. Okay, let's grab our sauce is going on nicely. Look at that. Okay, let's turn that off. Okay, it's bubbling away there. You want to reduce that down to around about half, but I'm conscious of the time there. So just spoon that over your duck. And there we go. So there it is, folks. That is sous vide cooking, sous vide duck breast. That is Michelin star stuff in just around about 20 minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go back into the other room and continue the rest of this, so you can answer any questions. And a big round of applause for my my camera person as well. There she is. She's shy. There we go. Thanks very much. I'm going to take the phone with me. Walk through my kitchen. Let's do that. Here we go. Nearly there.
Was that Challenge Annika?
And we are back. And we are.
Welcome back, Paul.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you for that. That was amazing.
Hello.
We love, and thank you to, is it Shelley for
Shelley,
being
yes.
camera person as well? Amazing.
Shelley, yes. Oh, hang on, my do you know what? Hang on, my do you know what? Still on. That's why the kitchen camera's still on. That's why I can hear myself twice. Let me get rid of that.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
There. Now that.
Yay!
Now there's one of them.
We were all going, what's going on? How exciting! Thank you so much. A little round of applause for Paul, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we have got a few questions. I think. Well, my question was, what else can you sous vide?
Well, pretty much anything. I mean, you can actually do. You could do carrots in there. Apparently, if you cook carrots at about 87 degrees, something absolutely amazing happens to them. I've yet to discover what that is. You can do poached eggs, and they come out beautifully. Now, there is a lot of contention. In fact, there are forums on the internet for the perfect sous vide poached egg. Many people maintain that it is 73 degrees for 14 minutes, not 13 and a half, not 14 minutes and 10 seconds, 14 minutes. But people muck around. But what you can get is you get a beautiful soft white, and the yolk just falls apart. They are gorgeous. And the best part is you grab an egg, you shove it in, go and do something else, go and get, jump in the shower, whatever it is, whatever you need to do in 30 minutes, come down, your breakfast is done. A lot of people actually do use them to reheat meals. Great if you've actually got a young family, you cook it, and then once it's done, you re-vacuum it, you just reseal the bag, shove it in the fridge, and then you can just put it in the sous vide, let things come up to around about 60 degrees and reheat your meals. So you could do that, you put your kids' stuff in before you go to work in the morning, and their dinner's waiting when you come home. What you cannot cook is anything with a bone in it. Anything that's got a bit of a cavity or a bone, because obviously you need that vacuum as well. So nothing with a bone in it. But apart from that, go crazy.
Interesting. Anybody else got any questions on sous vide? Stick your hand up. Sheena.
Paul, what is the most unusual thing you've cooked sous vide?
I mean, I always enjoy doing that one. That's fairly unusual. I've done the entire Christmas dinner and with the turkey in there. And that's wonderful for that. You just get a lovely turkey breast.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to wrap it in any bacon or anything like that. Yeah, one of these. Just get a big turkey breast, literally salt, pepper, little knob of butter. I use the word knob, bit of butter, little bit of lemon rind, shove it in the bag, put it in, walk away. There's no getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Utterly unnecessary. I cook it the day before. It just sits there and waits until I'm ready. And think about all the real estate in my oven that I've got available for everything else. Brilliant.
Plenty of room for lots more knobs. Thank you, Paul.
Indeed.
Anybody else got any questions about sous vide? Christina does. Christina.
Have you tried to sous vide anything with liquid in, like a marinade or something?
You can. Unfortunately, it's the vacuuming part that's always a
Yeah.
problem, because you are worried it's going to come out. What you can do, what they recommend, is you put your liquid in the bag and then you submerge the bag slowly in the water. And what will happen is the liquid around it will displace the air. So then you you do it in a Ziploc bag, and then you just close the bag slowly, slowly, slowly as it's going in. Ultimately, you don't want it to float. If it does a bit, you can always just pull it back out and suck a little bit more with a drinking straw. So yeah, it can be done. You could do scrambled eggs in it. You get a custard that comes out after about 15 minutes. Absolutely gorgeous. It's a lot of fuss though. Because I do scrambled eggs in a pan. I love doing it. But so I have, and it's hard work, but it can be. Once you get the infusion right, very rewarding.
Yeah, I tried that, but also I read that I haven't tried it yet, but I will do. I read if you freeze it slightly, the bag with the liquid, and then take the air out, that will work. I was wondering if you tried that.
I haven't, but sounds like a perfectly decent idea. Why not?
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Any other questions, anybody, about what else we can sous vide, or any sous vide adventuring questions? Everybody else is like, what else can we sous vide? Is there anything else we could do? What else could I make in that sous vide? Can you do desserts in it as well? Do puddings
Absolutely.
and things?
Yeah.
What like? Like
I mean,
cake?
No, you wouldn't do a cake in it, but certainly something, like a mousses or trifles or creams or anything like that. Because then what you've got is that wonderful infusion. So you could take some ordinary cream and put some fresh strawberries in it, put it in there, let it cook for an hour or so, and the cream will be absolutely infused with a taste of really, really fresh strawberries. It's incredibly fresh, very bright flavors you get from infusion.
How interesting.
I
We're
have
all
a
fascinated
question.
now, aren't we? Oh, Raphael, go on then.
It has nothing to do with sous vide. What in heaven's name has Chinese 5 Spice done to you?
Yes. Yes.
I love 5 Spice.
I don't like it. We just don't like it. My wife hates it so much more. It's so much so, in fact, that she actually sent me an email yesterday, because Lidl right now have got duck breasts in Chinese 5 Spice, and the subject line, she sent me a picture. The subject line was, "You wouldn't dare do this to my breasts," which is a great way to wake up in the morning.
Oh my God. Hilarious.
You started it. Don't.
Thanks for that, Shelley. So optional 5 Spice for people. I think a few of us were all very much case of we just love Michael McIntyre's 5 Spice analogy, don't we? As well.
Oh, 5 Spice.
Tony and I were laughing our heads off.
Yeah.
5 Spice. Hello, I'm 5 Spice. Yes, we love a bit of that. Thank you so much, Paul. That was